Hello, friends, and welcome. So I'm going to try and do a quickie. We've been working with the feet, and I also want to start to pay attention to how when we work with the feet, it moves up and helps stabilize the sacrum. So just standing up nice and tall. You will need one block. Let me say that right off the bat. You don't need it, but it sure is helpful. So standing up nice and tall, go ahead and pick your toe petals up, all 10 of them. Spread your toes as wide as you possibly can. You could go down and fidget with them as you set them back down to try to keep the width if that's not possible for you, right? So we're spreading out the phalanges and the metatarsals. And then from there, right, hopefully some of the weight already kicked into the heels when you lifted the toes, but if not, check in, distribute the weight evenly in that tripod of each foot, and that's our solid base, right? So from there, go ahead and step your feet out just a little bit wider, but find the same work as quickly as possible. And just go ahead and start to sway your hips from side to side. So I'm not bending my knee. It's not a knee exercise, right? I'm keeping my legs fairly straight, not locked. And I'm just letting my hips sway a little bit from side to side. If I let my feet have their druthers, I'd be moving my weight back and forth. But for today's purposes, I'm keeping my feet very firmly rooted through all three corners of both tripods. Now go ahead and just take a couple of circles. I just want to warm the pelvis up a little bit. I micro bend my knees because I tend to hyperextend if I'm not very careful with that. So if that's you, that's an option. Move the other direction. And one more, figure eight. So the right hip moves forward, around, and back, and then the left hip moves forward, around, and back. So go ahead and move your hips through a figure eight. Again, I'm going to micro bend my knees just so I don't lock the joint out. And then go the other direction. So the right hip goes back, forward, and around, and the left hip goes back, forward, and around, and so on. And try to smooth that out best you can. Let the hips be pretty footloose and fancy free. And come on back to center. So we played with this in last week's video, but we're going to add it in again, right? We're going to go ahead and put the right foot on the block in this orientation. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start to toe heel back. I'm on a rug that slides pretty good, right? So I'm going to toe heel back to keep myself safe. You could step back if that feels right for you, by all means. Bend in for just a second to ensure that your knee is going to be over your ankle, and then straighten the legs. So we're moving to warrior two without the arms today, right? I want you to go ahead and pick the toe petals up. And as you pick the toe petals up, make sure you're distributing the weight evenly, especially as we bend the knee, we tend to lose the heel for most of us, right? As I'm looking back, bring the toes back down. Sorry about that. As I'm looking back, I'm noticing my heel needs to go back a little bit further to get that 45-degree angle, right? And then I'm going to try to pick my toe petals up back there without picking my right toe petals up or moving my fingers. They're very connected neurologically, right? And from there, again, my arch just lifted up. Now I'm putting more weight in that back left heel, and then keep that toe petals down and start to bend the right knee in. If it's easier to keep the toe petals lifted to find that work, do it. Awesome. There's nothing wrong with that, right? So I worked with my toe petals up for a long time because my feet really had a hard time, right? And I'm going to bring them down now, but I'm going to keep the work of the feet. Inhale, maybe the arms reach out and up. And then with the weight more in the heel, not more in the heel, when you actually add weight into the heel, that's a better way to say that. Can you bend a little deeper in now that you have that support system on that back side of that leg? Keep rooting the heel down and straighten the leg. And then go ahead and you're just going to either toe heel or step in off of that block and pause. We're going to move the block and do the same pose without the block right after, same side, just so we can kind of notice the difference, right? So go ahead and step that right foot out, left foot back, right? Without the block, the advantage of the block is we can get more towards the 90 because we have height under the foot and we can put more weight in the heel usually more easily, right? That's two of them anyway. So go ahead and pick your toe petals up all at one time this time. Find the work of the feet. Let it ride up into the sacrum. Keep that. Toe petals up or down, either one you get to choose. Bend the right knee. And hopefully I don't have to tell you to pick the right hip point, drop the left lower, bottom of the brief line in, find the spine. Because when we come in from the feet, really rooting down, the pelvis is usually in its position much more so than not when we don't do the feet, right? Is the weight still in the heel? Can you bend a little deeper in? And can you still root that down even though you're losing that height with the block? Maybe the arms reach out and straighten the leg, turn the toes forward, come on in. You could simply turn your body. I'm going to keep my body forward in case that's a useful tool for y'all to see. So I'm going to put it on the other side of the mat, put my left foot up on that. And again, I'm going to nice and slowly move out because I have a rug that slides and I learned that the hard way. That was a hard day. And then go ahead and pick your toe pedals up, just the front foot for a second, and notice, right? Put it in all three corners, especially the heel when we bend in. Either leave the toes up or bring them down, either one. Lift your back toes up. Make sure it's at a 45 while you're looking at it, right? Feel the arch lift, weight go into the outer edge, toe pedals down or up, either one, and go ahead and bend on in. So again, notice that you can probably get a deeper bend with the height underneath the foot. You don't have to be at a 90. I'm not saying that. There's a lot of people who flexion in the hip and the knee. That's really hard for the ankle even. But wherever you can get to is great, right? And with the weight in the heel, we have a support system on the back side of that leg. Make sure that back outer heel is still pushing down. Maybe the arms reach out. Arms really don't, not that they don't matter, but not today. It's not an arm day. Feel how solid, hopefully you feel from the feet all the way up. Straighten the leg. Be gentle and careful coming out of that. Move block. Step wide. All right. This time, both, all 10 toe pedals up at one time, she says as she falls. Find the work of both feet, right? Inhale those arms out wide. Toe pedals can stay up or come down and bend in. So it's more difficult without the block under there to find that bend in the front leg, right? So work towards that without trying to kill yourself. I really don't like when people are like, bend the knee to a 90 degree. That's not available to probably like what, about 75% of bodies. So bend it to where you can and still feel the work and the weight in the foot and the back heel pushing down. Inhale the arms out wide. Hopefully the pelvis is already in a pretty neutral position because of the work of the feet. Straighten the legs, turn the toes forward, toe heel, toe heel. Step in, find that original pose, that Tadasana that we did, right? Maybe spread the toe pedals, bring them down. Where is the weight in the feet? Does the body feel any differently anywhere? Is there sensation? Right, so just really trying to enforce in our brains to be able to notice that when we use our feet well, I'm going to say, it comes up into the platforms above, the knees, the hips, and it helps the sacrum stay nice and stable. And that's especially my friends with sciatica, tender low back, SI joint issues, right? Any of that kind of stuff going on. Can be really good work. Hands together. Bow the head in. Namaste, friends. Thank you for playing with me. And if you want more of this, that's what last week and this week are going to be all about. So look for those shorter versions of the full poses. And my friends on Patreon who are subscribing, thank you so much. You make this possible so I can make this accessible to everybody without doing ads and stuff. So thank you for that. And you can find a long version on Patreon if you're, a $15 subscriber or above. So have a wonderful day.